So in our fourth and final video for this module, we're going to talk about instrument landing system, just to give a quick overview of that too. They've all been pretty quick overviews, huh? General idea, and I want to credit my colleague Dr. Rojas. These are the slides he developed, or these are from the slides he developed the last times he taught the class. So here we have an airplane approaching a runway, and on the ground here there are a couple of transmitters. One's called the Localizer, one's called the glide slope. And then, so the aircraft's coming in, it would like to stay on this glide slope, and it would also like to come in and make sure that it is on the center line of the runway when it lands. So there's these two transmitters, the Localizer and the glide slope. We'll look at the Localizer first and then the glide slope. So first, before we come in, there's three markers, which are beacons that are just transmit with a directionality up. And they have different frequencies depending that are tied to the transmitter frequency of the Localizer, if I remember correctly. So there's an outer marker, a middle marker, and an inner marker. And these are to let you know how far you are. I mean, these you can see here. One's 1,000 feet from the touchdown point, or 1,000 feet from the end of the runway, and then 1,000 feet in from the runway would be the touchdown point. You can see these here, and this is where you should be on the glide. It's a 3-degree glide slope, so you should be down 100 feet, above the ground at the inner marker, 200 feet at the middle marker, and then higher than that, which is 4 to 7 miles out, substantially higher at the outer marker. The Localizer, you can see the center line here. It lines up. It's at the end of the runway, the far end of the runway you're coming in on, and then there's the glide slope. Tower is nearby. I'm not quite sure how far that is. Looks like it's lined up, of course, with that touchdown point there, 1,000 feet in. The Localizer lines up at the center line. It's the transmitter at the end. It uses between 108 to 112 megahertz, so it's VHF. It's got 20 different channels. And it sends a signal that runs out to about 40 kilometers. That's probably a little less than 20 miles or so. Did I get that backwards? Yeah, that's right. That's more like it. And let's look at here's how this works. There's actually two signals on the Localizer. There's a carrier frequency that's modulated at 90 hertz, the carrier, and there's one that's modulated at 150 hertz. And so you're trying to get these two different signals, and you want to figure out which one has the higher amplitude. So if you're to the right of the center line, the 150 hertz modulation one will be stronger than the 90 hertz modulation one. And vice versa. If you're to the left of the center line, then the 90 hertz. And so the instrumentation can read the two different carriers and also see which one has the stronger modulation. And then it can indicate that by putting a vertical needle to the left or the right, telling you whether you're the left or the right of the glide slope. Visor is a phased array antenna to build these directional beams you just saw. So you got one beam over to the left, one beam over to the right that's stronger. And then this shows up on the kind of pilot see and a top view down. You can sort of see, it tells you where the outer marker is and where the inner marker is, and gives you the frequency that you should tune to here for this. And then the right-hand panel here shows the operation of the glide slope. So again, where you're going to have your outer marker, your inner marker, your outer marker, your inner marker, outer marker, middle marker, inner marker, and then your touchdown point, and again, some deviation. The glide slope, in some ways, just the Localizer twisted on its side. So you see again, a 90 hertz modulation and 150 hertz modulation. And so you can tell which one's stronger. If you're above the glide slope, then the 90 hertz is stronger. If you're below the glide slope, then the 150 hertz is modulator. And again, this shows on a glide slope indicator in the flight deck. So there's only one transmitter. I guess I'm not sure if there's one at each end or if there's just one per runway. I mean, it depends on, you got to have it for both directions, right? if you have ILS on both directions. You may just have an ILS approach on one direction. Not every airport has supports both directions. 3 degrees is a typical glide slope to bring you down. And then again, there's well, that's really the main point here. Is you can tell electric, so you have electrical signals, radio signals, tell you whether you're above or below the glide slope, and these show on an indicator in the on the flight deck.